This episode is brought to you by Lumina Growth Lab. At Lumina, we help professional learning and development consultants who are struggling with steady lead flow, consistent bottom line revenue, and scalability, so they can finally have healthy margins, make more strategic decisions, and ultimately take their business to the next level. Most of the time, our clients come to us frustrated because nothing seems to work outside of word of mouth and referral-based growth. But with the right strategy and support, they're able to confidently add new channels of lead generation that create sustainable revenue and year-over-year growth for cheaper than ever before because of the use of AI technologies. If this sounds like you or someone you know, connect with me on LinkedIn and I'd be happy to have a conversation with you about unlocking your business's potential. Now, let's dive into today's episode. Welcome to the Marketing Matrix. I'm your host, Lisanne Murphy, and I'm really excited to be here with you. Guys, I have an amazing guest with me today. I've got Brian Sullivan. Brian, thank you so much for coming on the show.
My pleasure, Lisanne. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Man, guys, Brian is a jack of all trades and he is a master of all of them. It's not a jack of all trades and a master of none when it comes to this guy. I met Brian recently and I was just really impressed with his tenacity and his passion for what he does in work and outside of work and how he approaches life. And so I'm really excited for you to glean a lot, not just from his knowledge, but from his energy. I'm so excited to have this conversation. Let me take a second to interview this powerhouse of a man, and then I'm going to let him blow your mind. So Brian Sullivan, CSP, is the founder of Precise Selling and is a nationally recognized expert in sales, leadership, presentations, and negotiation. He's one of fewer than 5% of professional speakers worldwide to earn the CSP designation, which is the highest honor awarded by the National Speakers Association. His insights have been featured in over 450 publications, and he's the author of several books on sales and leadership. Brian also leads a team of 15 salespeople, giving him the chance to test and refine everything he teaches in the real world every single day. He co-hosts the ESPN Kansas City podcast Golf Underground alongside Major League Baseball Hall of Famer George Brett, where he interviews legends like Charles Barkley, Darius Rucker, Jim Rohn, and Fred Couples. Brian lives right in Kansas City with his favorite clients, his wife and his 3 kids. So, guys, please join me in welcoming Brian Sullivan. Brian, again, thank you so much.
Yay, yay.
We're so excited to have you.
That's great to be here.
So, for people that don't know who you are, give us a little bit of a background in terms of what it is that you do with Precise Selling and how you're making an impact in the world.
Yeah. Okay. So our company does 3 things. We work with B2B companies of all sizes, small, medium, and large. And one, we teach their salespeople how to be amazing at cold prospecting, doing great presentations, how to negotiate. So companies adopt our sales process and we teach them how to be better than everybody else, whether it's on the phone or in person. Second thing we do is I realized a few years ago that a lot of B2B salespeople don't love to prospect. Yet there's so much opportunity in their markets. They love presenting or they love visiting existing clients, but they won't pick up the phone. And so I have a team of 15 salespeople who will do that for them. So you essentially rent out our cold prospectors. And then on the third side is we use AI technology to help follow up quickly for web leads or trade show leads and those sort of things. Ultimately, the goal is we're either going to make your people amazing or rent out one of ours, be it human or AI.
I love it. And what's your background in terms of like, how did you get passionate about this? Like, how did you narrow in on this being your offering and your service?
Yeah. It's a great question. So I spent 15 years. Well, first of all, I grew up in a town called Waterbury, Connecticut. Waterbury, Connecticut was ranked the worst place to live in the country by Money Magazine 3 years in a row. And I loved it, right? So I grew up in the worst place to live in the country, and I'd never been on an airplane. And I went to a school called Gettysburg College, and I became great friends with the dorm rich kid. His great-grandfather invented the first handheld electrically illuminated ophthalmoscope. They look into your eye, and his parents used to come, and I used to butter his mother up. So much so that she said, Sully, you're going to be a salesman for our company someday. And I said, well, I'd like that, Mrs. Allen. So I got a job. I had to work the factory floors, had to work shipping, had to work the phones. And the deal was when a territory opens up anywhere in the country, we're going to give you keys to a Ford Taurus and you're moving there. And my keys came and they said, you're moving to Kansas. And I said, where the heck is that? So I started my job, didn't know anyone for 1,500 miles. So when you were a lonely 21-year-old sales kid, doesn't know anybody. What do? Well, you get out of the apartment bright and early. You work really late because you like human contact. You don't want to be alone. And out of desperation, I made so many calls. My first year, I became my company's top sales performer. And the second year rolls around, and I'm the top sales performer. My head starts swelling. I start thinking I'm God's gift to selling. My boss sits me down and says, Sully, what do you think of Chicago? I said, I don't know, Jerry. I've never been there. I'm thinking he's going to give me a promotion. He said, well, you're moving there in 2 weeks. I said, you're promoting me already? I'm only 23. He said, oh, no, 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 we're not promoting you. Tanya Allen, whose father also owns Welch Allen, her daughter is dating a guy here in Kansas City. She wants your sales territory. We can either fire you or move you to Chicago. What's better for you? So I moved to Chicago, start all over again with my big fat golden retriever Bailey, and I do it again, and I start selling a lot of stuff. And I'll close it with this. The day it's November 6th, 1996. It's the day that I went from thinking I was a great salesperson to realizing how bad I was. And at the time, I was selling a colonoscopy. So for those of you who are listening who might be over 50, you've been on the receiving end of one of these, no doubt. And so I had an appointment at the premier proctology office in downtown Chicago. And like most bad salespeople, what do? We talk too much. We talk features and benefits and techs and specs. And this one day, this 85-year-old proctologist got so sick of hearing me, he gets right up to my nose and he says, would you shut up? And I kind of smiled. He said, you know, son, I've looked up more back ends than you have hairs on your head. And he grabs my tie and he leads me to the back room and he gave me the greatest sales seminar I'd ever gotten in my life. And it took about 2 minutes. He said, from now on, when you walk into an office, by the way, all you medical salespeople, you're all horrible at your jobs, and I'm going to teach you how to be good at it. From now on, walk in, you be prepared. My son, the other doctor, told me you didn't even know I existed. I own the building. Do some homework before you show up. Number 2, before you start blabbing all about your features and benefits, would you ask me some freaking questions? I'll tell you what you're supposed to say in your presentation, but you're selfish. Number 3. And so he's going down this list, and I'm just listening to the greatest sales seminar I ever got. And I'll never forget this. He turns away, and he looks back at me. He said, today you embarrassed yourself. Get the hell out of my office. That's when my life changed. So what did I do with this? I went back to my VP of sales, John Moran. I told him what happened, and he said, you know, Brian, it's not really your fault, although you do talk too much. He said, we've never taught you how to sell. He said, we've got a great brand. We have an enormous market share. We're having the best year of our life, but we don't have a common sales language. And no one ever taught you how to do a demo or present. So that's our fault. You're going to take 8 months off, part-time of your job. You're going to take every sales seminar you can, read every book you can, come back and create a sales training program for us. And he said, here's the job. We're going to split our team into A players, B players, and C players. Your job is to take our C players, train them how to become Bs. Take the Bs, train them how to become As, and don't screw up the As. And we did it. We put these boot camps together, and wouldn't you know it, you can actually teach salespeople how to be better at prospecting, at presenting, and negotiating. And the numbers went off the charts. And that's when it hit me that if you can, by teaching salespeople how to do their job better, they love their job more. It removes stress, right? Aimlessness causes stress. And it's wild to me how many B2B companies don't teach their salespeople how to sell. And you know what? They feel aimless, which means they're stressed, which means we're not getting the most out of them. So I didn't plan on doing this, just sort of life's journey.
I love that story so much. I love how it was, the journey of life, how you don't necessarily like plan for things, but experiences happen that turn on lights for you. And then opportunities are created for that. And I love how like you came back and your boss gave you space to learn, right? Recognizing that it was because you'd had this shaking experience that you were prepared to learn. And then you could take that and disseminate that, which as you teach it, you get better, right? So it's like a benefit for you, a benefit for the company. And now you have your own selling company, which is really, really remarkable. I love that.
Yeah, thank you.
So what do you find like when you work with B2B companies is like, where does it break down in the sales process for most people? And maybe it's like it's totally different depending on the company, but like I'd love for you to like break down like a few like key, I like to call them hinge points, right? The hinge points are where people can fall out of the funnel, right? So like where do you find are like the hinge points in the selling process where things fall apart? And it's actually pretty easy to fix.
Yeah. So let me say this. Everybody thinks their industry is unique. Your industry is not unique. You've got a few things that you have to do really, really well. You have to identify the right prospects, which could be on the tactical level, list building. Right? You got to identify them. Someone better either pick up the phone, craft a great email, or go knock on their front door. Okay, so what is a hinge point? B2B companies don't make enough sales calls. I want you to think of, let's say I'm doing a day and a half boot camp, and I'll do an exercise and say we got a room of 25 B2B sales reps, and I'll say, oh, I want you to tell me all the things you do in the course of a day. Give me everything. I get up, I brush my teeth, I shower, I go eat breakfast, I work out, I check email, right? I'll check my LinkedIn account, I'll check Facebook, put out some fires, and I'll start building this list on a whiteboard. And when do you think the word I prospect for new customers comes up in that list?
Either never or late in the afternoon.
They don't think about it, right? So what happens? So what are they doing? They're busy, right? But just because they're busy doesn't mean they're being productive. It doesn't mean that they're creating business. So um, eh, getting people to manage their time better so their day is filled with more high value activity, which would be prospecting, customer meetings, those sort of things. If I can remove the sand, which is a bunch of the garbage, and fill it up with rocks, which is commission building activity, here's what it leads to: more meetings and demos, right? The only reason we prospect is to get in front of somebody, right? Let's not overcomplicate this. If you prospect a lot, you do it well, you're going to have a lot of meetings. Now, when you go to that meeting, you and I have been through this, Lisanne, is we've sat through really bad presentations, the PowerPoint slide deck with the Q&A at the end that is all featured benefit, no storytelling, trying to appeal only to logic and no emotion. And that skill is teachable. Most have never been taught how to deliver a great presentation. So if you do get a great presentation, because we've booked a lot of meetings, you're going to create urgency and excitement. And so for those of you who might saying, Sally, boy, I got a lot of deals stuck in my funnel. They're just kind of stuck there. Well, that just says you didn't create urgency in your presentation, but you can be taught how to do that. And then the third hinge point I would say is this: when we send over that proposal and the trained buyer says, Brian, I really like what you have here, but you're going to have to lower your price. Lower it 10%. I think we'll get you in. I'll get you through the CFO. Just lower it 10%. I want you to think what the average rep says. Let me check with my manager. And you're already defeated. You're busted. You're gone. Forget it. That guy doesn't even want to talk to you. He wants to talk to your manager. You're done. But see, I can teach you what to say. When they say lower your price 10%, it's teachable. I could teach you how to go through this. And so if I can make people more confident, with managing their time, teach them what to say when you're prospecting, we're crafting an email, get you in that room or turn that Zoom or Teams on and you put on a kick butt presentation that creates urgency, and then you can defend your price, you're better than the untrained salesperson, which, by the way, that's most salespeople. Doesn't make them bad people, but I want to shake their VPs of sales who are trying to save nickels, right? They don't want to invest in their people. And I'm saying, what are you doing? You put in $10, you're going to make 100. Right. And whether that's my company or not, right? I don't even care if it's my company, but you got to invest in your people. You have to.
Love it. So, so, so smart. And I love how it's something that I'm constantly thinking about in my business is like, I love what you said, this wasn't the exact phrase you said, but essentially high revenue generating activities. Like, is your day filled with the most productive activities? And in those meetings that you're producing, are you being the most effective? And so like you said, it starts from the very, very beginning of creating a schedule and a life that gives you an opportunity to sell in the first place. And then how do you get better at selling? So good. So good. So what's a big initiative that Precise Selling has this year? Like what's on the horizon for you? Next 6 to 12 months. What are you working on?
Yeah. So right now we're up to 17 salespeople. By the end of next year, my hope is to have 50 salespeople. So it's just growth, right? It's just how I think we got private equity investment 2.5 years ago. And at that time, I really had a choice to make. Do we stay sort of a small boutique consulting training company, or do we go all at it? And, I made the choice, let's go for it. And so, I certainly with that, there's challenges, right? I mean, now you've got a lot of mouths to feed and which means there's urgency to bring that revenue in and to grow. One of the downsides is, well, I wouldn't say it's a downside. It's part of growing is you make more revenue and you got to decide what to do with it. You either go buy yourself something nice or you put it back in the business and you hire more people. That's the only way you grow. So, entrepreneurs, you know, put it this way, personally, I'm bringing home a lot less money than I was before we got private equity investment. And that's what you have to do to grow the business. You've got to put everything, not only your blood and sweat and all that stuff, but you got to put your money back into a business to grow. And so if you expect to live a cushy lifestyle as an entrepreneur, it ain't happening for a while, right? And that's the reality. Right? And you know this because you've got your own business, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely like, I mean, the dream you're going for, right, is like there's no ceiling, right? Huge upside potential. But man, the dirt you got to eat to get there and the hours you got to work. Like I was talking to a friend just yesterday and I was like in my world, in my business right now, like I'm heavy on prospecting activities. Like most of my day is conversations with people. And I am dreaming in sales calls. Like at 4 a.m., I wake up and in my mind, I'm talking about my offerings and services. And I'm just like, I can't stop working. Like I'm even like selling in my sleep. Like I was just talking to a friend about that yesterday. And that's really, it's because it's consuming, but it's also, it's a game and it's fun and the autonomy to make decisions. It's wonderful. So anyway, just to say, I feel ya.
Yeah. Well, listen, I love your comment of it's a game. We don't have to do this, you know? I mean, you and I could go back to the corporate world and have a 401k and a dental plan and probably do just fine, right? And it'd be less stressful, but the game is the stress, right? I mean, and that's why entrepreneurship. I had a business radio show here in Kansas City for 9 years. It was called the Entrepreneurial Moment. And it was really the premise of the show was, tell me about that moment where you decided to go all in, right? Because that's a huge decision for people. And it's a big step, but the rewards are awesome, right? But ultimately, whether it's your own business or you're a salesperson for someone else's business, it's still a game. Sales, we have a finish line. Those are our sales objectives and our quota. And the dopamine hit you get when you get that order is a reward for all of your hard work. So we salespeople get a lot of dopamine hits, right? That's our gift, and you gotta love it.
Yeah, I love that so much. Yeah, and it's can be addicting for sure. And scary and addicting. I don't know. We're crazy. We're just, well, at least I'll speak for myself. I'm crazy.
Well, listen, it's funny you say this. So, here in Kansas City, one of our neighbors is, he passed away. He and his wife passed away, but his name was Neil Patterson. One of the biggest business people here in Kansas City created the electronic health record company called Cerner, and his tendencies were very sort of Steve Jobsy, or like many entrepreneurs. I would say almost more like an Elon Musk, socially strange, right? And he used to call himself and other entrepreneurs mutants. He said, We're just mutants. That's the only way I can describe them, right? The brain works a little wacky, you know? So for those of you out there listening, you might think you're a little weird. That's great. There's no one size fits all, baby, right? I
I
mean,
love it.
yeah.
I love that so much. Yeah, and that's something I'm actually really passionate about exploring with people is that I love how you said it's not one size fits all. I think oftentimes, especially when we get started in business, we're like, oh, I need my business to look like this, or I need to follow this guru's framework or whatever. And we lose that X factor that each of us brings. And it takes, for me personally, it's been in my journey where it's like, I'll find a piece of my X factor and then like I'll get lost in the cycle of someone else's thing. And then I'll come back to myself and realize like, that's not me at all. Like, how do I infuse more of myself, which can often be scary because it means you're trying things that you haven't seen and that haven't been done. But authenticity, I think, is like the secret spice of success, to be honest, in my opinion. And that's something that I'm exploring in myself and that I'm always interested when I hear entrepreneurs like you say, like it's not a one size fits all solution. So I love that.
Well, and listen, I struggle with that too, right? So processes, let's just say operational processes, be it what CRM you're using or, all of the tools that are attached to the CRM, or you can learn a lot by other people. You don't have to reinvent processes. Now you can tweak some processes, but if you're brand new, I'd say go look at a similar successful business. What CRM are they using? What other AI tools are they using? Like you don't have to, but from there, you got to be careful you don't get trapped into looking, sounding, and smelling like that business, right? And I guess I will use an example of in the business world, so many people even end up, well, a lot of them act the same, but they sound the same too. The words they use. We've seen this. There'll be certain business or corporate cliches that all of a sudden pop out of nowhere and you hear them in the next 5 sales meetings, right? And you're like, why are you talking like that? Right? So we sound the same. Or here's another example. And I'll ask salespeople because in my first book, 20 Days to the Top, I have a whole section on what you and I are describing. You called it the X factor. I call it being stupid. So what is stupid? Well, what I found is creative people, well, those who tend to be like a herd of cows, they look, sound, act, smell like everybody else. They're intimidated by those who are a little edgy, X factor, right? The ones who do things outside of the process. And so what do? They say it's a stupid idea. That guy's stupid. So what I realize is if you're being called stupid, you're doing great. Right. And so one small example is I'll ask my audience, I'll say, okay, do you ever have customers leave a message on your voicemail? And they'll say, yeah, I do. And I'll say, okay, so if I called your voicemail and it went to your greeting, would your voicemail sound something like this? Hi, you've reached the voicemail of Brian Sullivan. I can't take your call right now, but if you'd like to leave your name, number, and a brief message, I'll be sure to return your call as soon as I can. Have a great day. Boop. And I'll say, raise your hand if your greeting sounds something like that. Everybody raises their hand. Then I say, not everybody, 75% of the audience raises. And then I say, all right, raise your hand if it sounds exactly like that, word for word, except the Brian Sullivan part. And then they all raise their hand. And I'm like, look at that. We all sound the same, right? Like, who told you that that's what an outgoing greeting is supposed to sound like? Stop it. Don't sound like everybody else. Create a different experience because people make decisions, sales decisions, buying decisions based on emotion. And then they defend that decision with logic. So you have to trigger their emotion. And by the way, if you can get someone to smile, you got them.
Yeah, you win.
You got them, right? So listen, if that might mean that next email, maybe you've got a prospect out there who's ghosting you and you just can't get their attention. Listen, maybe you go to their Facebook or you do a little research on you realize, hey, they're big hunters. This guy likes to hunt, and maybe maybe he's a decision maker at a hospital, so he's in the medical environment. You could do something as simple as go to ChatGPT, craft me a funny picture of a hunter holding a stethoscope and a patient chart. And it'll create some funny picture. And now drop that into your email. You know what he's doing? He's scrolling through his email going, delete, 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 delete. And he pops up and he sees this stupid picture. What do you think he's going to do? His mouth's going to move a little bit. He's either going to say, this guy's weird, but you got his attention. Or he's going to say, good effort, but he's going to read the words below it. That's a little different, right? Handwritten thank you notes. When was the last time you've written a handwritten thank you note to one of your top 10 customers? I don't have time. I send follow-up emails. Well, so does your competitor. So there's the X factor you're talking about. Find it, right? You got to find it, but you just can't be like everybody else. It's boring, by the way. Why would you want to do that?
Love that. I love that. And I love the example that you brought up of the voicemail. I mean, people rarely even have voicemails these days, but I remember when I was in college, this was before I even knew what marketing or sales or business even was. When I was in college, I was like, man, why does everyone's voicemail sound the same? I was like, I'm going to be different. And my voicemail was something like this, like, hi, you've reached the voicemail of Lisanne Murphy. Please leave your name, your phone number, what you had for lunch, your credit card information, if that's okay. And I went through 8 things and I was like, after the beep. And then what was so funny is people would always leave a message because of that. And they just
Yeah.
start laughing and they would actually tell me what they had for lunch. And it was always people always would say, I love calling you and I actually appreciate when you don't answer.
It's true.
Because
It's
then I
true.
get to hear what funny greeting you have. So I honestly, I totally forgot that I did that. And I really appreciate you bringing it back up.
Yes. Well, and so it's funny that the VP of sales who sat me down and said, I want you to, go take all these seminars and create our program. His name was John Moran. Great, just a great old dude. And so we would sell through big distributors, medical distributors. And John was a bigwig in healthcare. And of course, bigwigs in healthcare, aren't they supposed to be sort of stiff? Aren't they supposed to wear the sports coat and the fancy jeans and pop collar? And, John was not that. He was the exact opposite of that. So he would change his voicemail greeting every week and put some stupid date in history. And he would change it every week. So it would sound something like this. Hi, you've reached the voicemail of John Moran. I'll be in the factory on Monday and Tuesday and on the road Wednesday through Friday. Now, this week marks the anniversary between Joe DiMaggio and Marilyn Monroe back in 1954 in Southern California. So if you leave me a short but interesting message after the tone, I'll call you back quicker than you could say, Jumpin' Joe DiMaggio, we want Joe on our team. And you'd be like, what the hell was that? And the customers would call him every few weeks just to hear John's stupid message. But it became his brand, right? It became part of who he is. And so I think we all have to think, well, here, let me show you one other one. This is a friend of mine. His name's Tony Malero. He created a fictional character called Dr. Ben Dover. Remember, we used to sell colonoscopes.
Ben Dover, yep.
Okay. Bobblehead doll. He would dress up full blown like this and walk into the distributors. He was famous. He'd walk into hospitals like this. Everybody in the industry knew Dr. Ben. Right? It was unbelievable. That's
I love it.
that's for
So
years.
good.
So go have fun. Go have fun. We could teach sales process. We teach steps and how to cold call and how to prospect. But if you can make someone smile, you got a lot of it covered.
I love it. Such a good principle and good examples of that. So while we're on this vein of thought, what is something that Precise Selling does differently than most in your industry?
Yeah, we keep it simple. Keep it really, really simple. I think that the companies, listen, there's a lot of great sales processes out there. And if you have one, commit to it. But what I know is a lot of my competitors, it's very theoretical. And I just know salespeople. Like salespeople are tell me what to do. I'll try it. If it works, I'll keep doing it. But if you're going to force me too much to, hey, this personality type is you have to analyze the personality. Like it's like, okay, that's all good. I totally get it. I do it myself. But I might know a personality, but what do I say when I see that personality? So I think what we do is really to take away all of the theory and very specific steps. So for example, if you're going to make a cold call, we're going to teach you what your opener should sound like. We're going to teach you the hooks. We're going to teach you the questions, the exact questions you should ask. We're going to turn you into more of a podcaster than you are a product pusher. So it's just easier to remember. So if you make it simple, they'll use it. If you come with a bunch of theoretical fluff, they're going to say that was a really good sales training session. And 8 months later, the people are going to wonder why they invested in it because no one's using it.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Well, and like you say, like people at the end of the day, they buy on emotion, right? They have
Mhm.
a gut feeling, they have a desire that they're going after, and they either like you or they don't. Like I just closed a contract yesterday with someone and he was like, "Look, I look for three things. I look for capability, compatibility, and I can't remember what the last C was in this specific moment." But he was like, "I like you. I've had a great time getting to know you. So I know that we're compatible." He's like, "You've shared enough case studies with me. I know that you're capable. And so let's do this thing."
Awesome.
And but really honestly, like and he had two other proposals. And so like he chose me purely because of like the emotional connection that was created through me really investing in what he was trying to accomplish in his business.
Mhm.
And it made the big difference. And so yeah, I'm excited about
That's
what
awesome.
them,
Do
but
do
yeah.
you think well, do you think you did a better job than the other 2 of diagnosing his issues, or it was more he just trusted you? Like, what do you think separated? And it's probably hard to tell because he hasn't told you what separated you, right?
Yeah, well, what's also interesting, you asked that follow-up question, is the other proposal that he was seriously considering was someone that he already knew in his network, whereas I was like the dark horse. Like I came out of nowhere. So often people make a decision with someone they know just because of the trust factor and familiarity, right? So like for me to win the deal being an unknown factor, I was honestly when he told me he was getting another proposal from someone he'd already worked with, I was like, okay, this deal's probably lost. So when he came back to me and he was like, "Let's do it," I was like, what the what? Like really shocked. I do think like something that I've really switched in my prospecting recently is people are always asking, "Just tell me what you do. How can you help me?" And I said, "Well, before we talk about that, let me understand what you're actually going after, because like you could say I want more leads, but if you're actually getting leads but you're not dealing with those leads properly, then me bringing you more leads is just going to throw more fire on a broken system. So like, let's figure out what exactly do you need? And then like, I promise you by the end of the conversation, either I'll be able to help you or someone in my network will be able to help you. And you're going to get help either way. And so I think that approach, that's something that I've changed recently. And that approach, I think, helped really dial in because he kept talking about, I really do think like now that I'm kind of realizing this even as I'm talking to you because it's new, he kept saying, I really feel like you understand what I'm actually trying to accomplish. Like you understand the mission and you're bought in. And that really was what did it. I wasn't selling a service. I was buying into his mission and selling the outcome that he wants. And yeah, so I think that's what won the deal.
You just described how a sales call is supposed to go, but that's very different, right? You even just said it. You didn't used to do it this way. How would you have done it before? So we know this way worked. How would you have done it in the past?
Yeah, I think it was like I'm a like how I would have done it in the past is like, well, I'm a Facebook ads expert. This is what I do. Like, let me learn about your business and then I'll see if your business fits into Facebook ads.
Mhm.
Like if it's the other way. Like, do you fit into my model? Instead of like, how can I offer a solution that fits into your model and like how you're approaching it? I think that's the biggest switch that I've made recently.
Yeah. 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 I love that. So you're diagnosing and that's I try to compare good salespeople to doctors or podcasters, right? You know, the example I would use with a doctor is if you walked into a doctor's office and you had a sniffly nose, the doctor doesn't look at you and say, I know exactly what you need. Here's a Z-Pack for 14 days, right? He's going to say, or he's going to ask a whole bunch of questions. He's going to diagnose you and then he's going to give you the right medicine. And what most salespeople do is they go in with the medicine but they
Mm,
don't know the disease. And it seems so simple. Like, why would you do that? And I love how you diverted your conversation there. He wanted the pitch, but you wanted to make sure you gave him the right pitch. And it's a great habit is it's okay to say, I don't even know if we're the right fit yet. I'd love to ask you a few questions. That's exactly what you did. Also, you know, maybe without even knowing it, um, that's a posture that's called slight indifference. It's, I sense you're committed to helping me but I also sense you're not attached to the outcome,
mm.
which means you're gonna get more honesty out of me. I don't feel like I'm gonna break your heart if I'm honest with you. So I'm not gonna hide objections or whatever. And that's what that question does. So awesome job. See, it worked. Guess what? You got an order.
Let's go. No, that's awesome. I appreciate you breaking down the psychological mechanism that's happening behind that. Yeah, well, and it also takes pressure off of me, right? It's like it's better for all parties involved. So,
Yeah. And you know, and what you also do, so you know, the premise of precise, right? What does that mean? Is it just sort of a company term? And it really isn't. The objective is to make your point in as few words as possible, right? So the definition precise is it's a quality of being exact, sharply defined, or stated. And the other one is distinguished from every other. If you ask those questions, well, then when you go to present, you're not going to present a lot of things. You're going to be very targeted and focused. You're probably going to use half the words, but they're going to have twice the power. That's what people want.
I love that. So good. So good. Oh man. Well, Brian, it has been so wonderful. Or should I call you Sully? You've
Sally,
referenced
call
yourself
me
as Sully
Sally.
multiple times.
Yes, that's what my students call me.
It has been a joy having you on the podcast today. I am sure we could go on for a long time on many of the subjects that we've touched on, and I think it'd be fun to have you again. But for people that want to get in touch with you, follow you, where can they find you? And I'm gonna put all the links below, so you don't necessarily have to spell it out, but like just tell us where the best way is to find you.
Yeah, so preciseselling.com is the website, but the best way is LinkedIn, right? So just do a search Brian Sullivan Precise Selling. Throughout the week, I post short videos. I've got one series right now. It's called Regular Guy AI. So I'm teaching salespeople, you know, just sort of easing them into AI. I do something called Lessons from the Dog Park that are more lifey, motivational stuff. And then I write an article a week. So I'll hit you up with some really good usable stuff. And by the way, I'm always here to help people. So hit me up on messaging. If you want to chat stuff out, let's go. All right.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much for bringing your heart and your desire and your authenticity and your expertise to the marketing matrix today.
My pleasure. Thanks, Lisanne. I appreciate it. You have a great rest of the week. Close more deals this week, girl. It's only, I don't know, it's the end of the week. Let's go.
Let's go.